Okay, good morning. This is Giovanni Di Fabrizio. I am a VCE Italian teacher, and this video will be about the VCE Italian oral exam with a particular focus on the general conversation part of this exam. So, as you can see in this screen, you will see here the topics that you will be asked during the VCE Italian exam. La famiglia, il tempo libero, la scuola, il futuro, il lavoro, e also a question on la cultura e la lingua italiana. It's important to know that all these topics refer to your own individual experience. So therefore, it's very personal in a way. So this video is about giving you some tips on how to write advanced and make sure that your experience, your oral exam, you can get the best result. So if we look at this screen, I've got the beginning of una risposta avanzata, an advanced response. And I've highlighted a few of the linguistic features that make that an advanced response compared to a more standard basic one. First of all, you will see that there is a fairly spread use of adjectives and adverbs. Both those two features obviously are nothing else that showing that you have a broad range of vocabulary, which make your language more precise and to the point. Obviously, you can add adverbs and adjectives even once you have started to write your paragraph. So let's say if we look at this line, è un quartiere abbastanza tranquillo. Forse è un po' troppo noioso perché è molto lontano dal centro. I'm talking here about the suburb where I live, and I'm saying that it's pretty quiet, tranquillo. But if I say abbastanza tranquillo, I add this adverb abbastanza before the adjective, meaning like it's quite, it's 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 a fairly quiet suburb in a way. There's not much going on, so it makes that language obviously a bit more specific. You can see also the number of adjectives used here, from grande, in gamba, comprensivi. It's always good to have a pair of adjectives, 2 or 3 adjectives. And remember also a tip that if you are not sure how to describe something or someone, you can always, if you remember how to say the opposite of it, you can use the negative structure. So let's say, you don't remember how to say tranquillo, or let's say lontano, you might say the opposite, non è vicino al centro, which is the same thing. Okay, the next element, a variety of tenses and moods. So when we're looking at verbs, tenses are present when the action is taking place, past, present, future. If you look at this paragraph here, we got something about fratello maggiore, which is your older brother. And with your older brothers, non abita più con noi. He doesn't live with us. So abita is obviously the presently. Why? Because ha deciso di prendere una stanza in affitto in un appartamento con altri studenti universitari. I'm reading this sentence here. So he decided to rent a room in an apartment, in a shared apartment with some of his university friends or some of his colleagues at uni. So this ha deciso is passato prossimo. Passato prossimo, showing that in the same sentence you can use both tenses. And even better, at the end here, I'm finishing with farò. Credo sia importante essere indipendente. Anch'io, probabilmente, so another adverb here, farò lo stesso tra qualche anno. So this farò, I will do. I'll do the same in a few years' time when it's my time to go to university. So in the same paragraph, I use present, past, and future. And if we noticed, even here, credo sia importante, credo che sia importante. This is the subjunctive, which is used after the verb credere, I believe. It's important to be independent. So let's go down here. We've got a gerund, which is another mood. Essendo più piccoli di me, being younger than me, these I'm talking about the fratelli acquisiti, which are the stepbrothers. They are little, they are younger, essendo più piccoli di me, mi vedono come il loro modello. So I'm using here, obviously, some gerund to, rather than phrasing, showing that I can phrase the same concept using a different type of mood. If we look at these expressions, these are idiomatic. Rompono le scatole. They are a bit annoying. Sono, instead of saying sono fastidiosi, antipatici, I'm using rompono le scatole, which is an idiomatic expression, which is quite informal and casual, and it's okay to use it if you had to describe two young brothers that are pretty cheeky and they maybe do not allow you to study for your VCE. Down here there is a little paragraph on le vacanze scolastiche, le vacanze estive. We got the expression ci divertiamo un sacco, which is having fun a lot, so another idiomatic expression, hips. And most importantly here, right at the end, you finish with a periodo ipotetico. These are what we call if clauses. They are obviously pretty advanced because you gotta be able to use the imperfect form of the subjunctive. If I ever decided to study at university, I wouldn't mind. So this is the condizionale, the conditional tense, to spend sometimes more time with my dad, go to Brisbane to study. The only other thing here is the use of indirect and direct object pronouns. Obviously, this one is an indirect object, gli voglio bene, while this one is direct. Okay. If once you have written your own paragraph, your about 200 words, maybe 250 words, you will have to practice it. You gotta have to memorize it. You gotta have to make sure that the pronunciation of the words, the intonation of your voice, you are confident. You practice with another person without looking at your notes, maybe in front of a mirror. Record your voice, record a video, see whether you are confident. Maybe at the start you may want to have a few cue cards to remind you of what you want to lead that conversation, what are the main things you are going to say. Once you've done that, so basically answering the question com'è la tua famiglia or parlami della tua famiglia, you gotta go to this next step. So the next step is, let's say that this is your paragraph about your family. The next step is to write down what are some of the questions, le domande, that the examiners may ask when they hear what I have to say about my family. So this is a pretty fair description of what my family is like, something about my parents, something about my brother, something about my sister down here. And also there is a little mention here about the school holidays, the actually summer holidays, le vacanze estive. I've highlighted some of the passato prossimo in yellow. You can see some of the adjectives here in green, some of the indirect object pronouns. So there is a little bit of quite a good range of vocabulary. But the questions that arise from this text are on the right column, and that you should be using some sort of mind mapping tool that allows you to brainstorm those questions. Start with the first one. Starting with the first paragraph, you say that la mia famiglia è abbastanza numerosa, quite a large family, and it's always there is always someone to talk to. Never get bored because there is always someone around. Non ci si sente mai soli. So the question that could arise from such a statement is that maybe some of the examiners may ask you whether there are some negative aspects about being in such a large family, because you say here that it's bellissimo, but maybe you could one of the examiners may ask you, secondo lei quali sono gli aspetti negativi di crescere o di avere una famiglia numerosa? Okay? Here you talk about your parents, their profession, their job. Mio padre fa l'elettricista, mia madre lavora come farmacista. A question that could probably could be asked is whether you want to pursue the same career, or if you have an interest in what your parents are doing. Le piacerebbe, le interessa il lavoro dei suoi genitori? Or maybe would you like to have also a large family with many children? If you for you in the future, is it something that interests you? Then you talk about your brother. Your brother is a university, so here the question could be fairly common to ask whether you want to what you want to do in the future, what you want to do dopo la scuola. Vuoi andare all'università come tuo fratello? Vuoi essere indipendente? And so on. All the questions that you see here, they are referred to something that is being mentioned in the text. La musica, la televisione, essere indipendente, le vacanze. Okay? So, once you've done this brainstorming those questions, the next step is to use those questions to incorporate the answers of these questions in your text. So let's say here you've been asked the type of music that you like to listen, or the type of TV programs you like to watch. We're looking at this part here. Well, incorporate that in your paragraph. So that somehow you use that tool also to expand your text. Okay, so just to summarize the steps. So these are the 5 topics of your oral exam. We took one of those topics, La Famiglia, because for each one you're gonna have to write a little, let's say, a little essay. You can then incorporate some of those linguistic structures, some of the ideas that I gave you. And then once you have memorized it and you are confident, try to think about what are the possible questions arising from your presentation. And this would allow you to be confident and expand your conversation, and also to predict what the examiners may ask you on during your VCE oral exam.